This is the K953 Sports Show podcast, brought to you by the Fan Zone in Wilmer's Candy Mall.
Welcome to the K953 Sports Show podcast. It's our official first episode. So super excited because of the time that we are doing this and the date being at the end of August, and we got the Viking season coming up. We'll be doing our Viking preview today, talking strictly all Vikings and looking to the upcoming season. With me today, as always, I'll have two guests with me, and they will change throughout each week and some usuals and whatnot. But we've got Jeremy Goulet, who is our front office manager. You might hear him occasionally on air if he steps in and talks to Al Sheldon Friday mornings for picks and passengers on the NASCAR. I think what do they call you, the
Flying Frenchman.
The Flying Frenchman. Yep.
Yeah. Leave it to Al.
Yeah. So we got Jeremy Goulet here, and then our third guest is my father. His name is Rolf Standfuss. He's a diehard Viking fan like myself.
A lot longer.
Yeah. Well, he's lived longer, so by default.
Yes.
He was at the very first Viking game with the Bears. And you were, what, 13?
13 years old.
13 years old at the very first Viking game. So he has been through the thick and the thin throughout the years. So I'm glad to have him here to start the very first podcast with us. So let's kind of get off to the start here. We're going to kind of go through, as my itinerary says, the Vikings since the Philly debacle. Unfortunately, we don't have to remember that, but we kind of forced to. Every time I'm on Twitter, there's Eagles fans constantly taunting. Still, every Viking post on anything, 38-7. That's all they write, 38-7. Oh,
I'll never go away.
If I could reach through there and just slap them across the face, I would be more than happy to.
I'd hit him with a board.
Yeah. And so let's get started off here. Let's start with the draft. As usual, my father and I, we go down to the draft party every single year. And we were down again this year. If you've never been to the draft party, you should think about going. It's a blast. Since they've had it now, since the stadium's been built, it's on the floor of the stadium. So at least go once to pay your money and stand where the 50-yard line is and just look around and just the awe of the stadium from the floor. That's half the fun.
Yeah, just looking up at the glass ceiling and everything is just amazing, and the whole structure is pretty darn really massive.
Yeah,
So.
It is huge. So we were there for the pick, and of course for round one, pick 30, we took Mike Hughes, junior, and out of North Carolina. Obviously when we were there, everybody was super surprised. A lot of people wanted offensive linemen. I don't hate the pick. I didn't hate the pick at first either. I kind of enjoyed it once I started learning more about him and just what he has kind of come up through starting at a community college. And just, those are the kind of players you want, I feel, the ones that are at community college.
They're fundamentals, and they're hungry.
Exactly.
Nothing came easy.
Exactly. They weren't given the full ride at Alabama or something like that. They had to work their butts off.
Yeah, that's true about it. It's your junior college guys, like Jeremy said, is just they're a lot hungrier than these four-year college guys that have been, probably, like you said, a free ride on a sports scholarship or whatever.
Yep.
Football scholarship, I should say.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
less
So-
ego too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Potentially. Yep. Exactly. So it's so I'm excited for him. I haven't seen a lot of them. I haven't noticed a lot of them in the preseason, but that's probably a good thing. You know what I mean? He's not getting burnt.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like, oh geez, there's our first round pick getting burnt or anything like that. So that is, I feel, a very good positive. So I'm excited for it. I mean, our depth at corner is so good, and I mean, you got Mike Zimmer, who is just the master of defense. So you can never have too many cornerbacks, especially when you got Stafford and Rodgers in the division.
Yep, keep throwing curveballs at him.
Yep. And it's another thing too. Spielman, he's done so well over the last Oh man, last 4 to 5 years, as far as his draft picks, he finds those little diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, no, it's I definitely have no complaints over anything with his drafting since, especially, well, I'd say after the Christian Ponder years, probably that's the Ponder
That
draft.
was a little brutal.
Ever since then, he's been really solid in his draft and his drafting. So yeah, when I see people complain about him and his drafting, I'm just like, yeah, you guys don't know what you're talking about.
He seems to be pretty solid.
Yeah. So of course, everybody expected the Vikes to go offensive line in the first pick. We did go offensive tackle with Brian O'Neill in the second round. I know he's been playing some right tackle with all the rash of injuries that we have had. And what I like about this guy the most too is I remember watching his highlights that first time. I like how they had him doing end arounds and catching passes and throwing passes. This isn't your typical 6'8", 350-pound tackle.
Right.
He's
I think I saw some footage on him here prior to coming tonight, and he looks like the real thing. He's got to get used to the NFL just like anybody else coming in as a rookie. It's so much, and it's so much faster than college ball, because college ball is, every time you get a first down, they stop the clock. So
It's just such a steeper learning curve. To try to catch on to all that right away, and like you said, if it's moving that fast too, it can make things interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's not, he's going up against the best of the best now, and he's got to learn that. During his school games, he might have been going against a guy who's getting a business degree, and
True.
he's just using football to pay for it. You know what I mean? So now he's going up against guys who are actually getting paid to run his butt over and get to the quarterback. So obviously, we're kind of wait to see what's on him, but hopefully, no offense to Brian, hopefully we don't see him play much, because that means we're getting injured on there on the offensive line, and that is not a good thing. We already have enough question marks as it is on that side.
Right on.
That's right.
Yeah.
I won't touch base on too many other of the draftees, just because I haven't seen anything on it.
Yeah, I haven't. I've been watching all the preseasons, and I haven't seen too much of any of the other ones.
Yeah.
He's spotty playing. Let's see, I can't think of the D-back that was in there for a while. What was his name again? Oh boy, now Devontae Downs. He played a few series.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I remember what he looked like as far as how he played, but
Yeah.
as you're watching, you get to the point now you watch both the lines and the D-backs come in later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, the big uproar was, of course, us taking Daniel Carlson with the in the 5th round for a kicker, and as now we have found out, Kai Forbath was cut, and then Carlson's like, you know what? Hey, I'm just gonna miss a couple of field goals to
Put us at ease.
to get our hearts back a racing.
Yep. I think Mr. Zimmer had a little chat with him after that game. I'm pretty sure he sat him down the next day, if not even that night already.
Yeah.
So he may have thought he had pressure when he was kicking against Forbath. I think Zimmer's going to put some pressure on him.
Yeah,
Either
exactly.
you make him, or
Yeah. This is.
you'll be
doesn't have
selling computer equipment or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what that'll be it kind of on the draft. Our thoughts on that. Let's get into free agency. Of course, our two biggest ones before the preseason started was Richardson and Cousins. Obviously, Richardson. I really hope he really comes back to who he was, because he's been a force, and I must say, after looking at his stats on Seattle, and Seattle had a good defense still last year.
Yep.
It was nothing to write home about, I felt.
No, his biggest years came when he was with the Jets, I believe.
Yeah, well, he won NFL Rookie of the
Yeah,
Year,
Rookie of the Year,
Defensive
that's right,
Rookie of the Year.
Defense, yeah.
So he's fallen off a little bit. Yeah, like you said, hopefully he can recapture some of that stuff
they were
he had.
getting Richardson and Linval were getting pushed around in the last game against the Seahawks, and they claimed there's a lot of cross blocking that they were getting ran into, and then they came out that second half. I thought that first series that the defense ran, they shut them down right away, and I think they finally did
They
some.
were, the good old halftime adjustment.
Yep, halftime adjustment. Zimmer's good at that. So
Very good.
Yep. So just a quick look over, like I mentioned with Richardson, he had 16 and a half sacks his first 3 years. His last 2.5.
I was gonna say I know he only had one last year, so
Yeah, his worst, his third year, or he only played 11 games in 2015. Otherwise, his worst year in tackling, also only 27 total tackles, 17 assists, 44 combined, whatever. An interception. He had an interception magically somehow. One of those classic.
Well, since Crazy Randall, since he was our defensive tackle, I don't think we've had one that's really done anything as far as a sack machine like he was. And his motor was, like you say, always running. Richardson, I think, can get in there. But, over the years that I've watched these purple people, a lot of our defensive ends are the ones that you get those two tackles in the middle to tie up some people, and the ends come in and take care of them. So that's why you see that. But Randall was... he just knocked a guy aside, and I'm going for sack.
Yeah.
Well, that's the tough part too. With John Randall, you have somebody like that that's just a stalwart in your lineup forever, and then he's gone. It's like you've been spoiled.
Yep.
You're ruined. It's like nobody's ever going to be Randall. So
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting what Sheldon does now with 3 good players around him.
Yeah, healthy.
He has no excuses.
No.
If he comes out and he is not, he's playing. He did a 1-year contract, so he's playing for that contract next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a huge deal in him. Of course, Kirk Cousins. I believe when I've talked to you guys when it was happening, I think we were all kind of on the same page that we were happy Kurt was coming here. Ignore the naysayers that were like, oh, he's never done anything with Washington. The people who don't realize that it is still a team sport. And you still do need talent around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was the little blurb they put at the bottom of the screen the other night during the game that the last, 4 seasons, he's had 4,000 yards, or 5 seasons, 4,000
So it was
yards?
three seasons. Last 3. He's
Last
the only.
3.
Yeah, it was.
I know exactly what stat I had it
I'm
written
trying to
down.
remember which one.
Yeah, he's the only quarterback over the last 3 seasons to have over 4,000 yards and 25 plus touchdowns thrown.
So so the thing we're going to have to do is we're going to make sure we got a solid offensive line. He was last Saturday night. What night was it? Friday night.
Yep.
Oh, time flies when we retired. But anyway, last Friday night, he was hurried a few times, and he made a statement too afterwards in his press conference that he maybe should have released the ball faster, or probably tucked it too. So, but he, I think, he is the real deal. And just that we've had to protect him. We got to keep him healthy, and he's a very accurate passer.
And
that pass against Denver. I can just watch that over and over to Diggs.
on the sideline.
I just keep looking at it, and I'm like, there is absolutely nobody else that could have any possibility of catching that ball. And I just remember,
beautiful.
I think we were talking about that right away after, and both of us, like, almost at the same time, were like, Keenum could not have made that pass.
Yeah.
There's
have
nothing
arm
against
strength.
him, just nothing against him.
Not
But
the
it
arm
just
strength.
Nothing against Case.
You've got the accuracy that he brings and the experience.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So we're all on the same page there about Cousins, that's for sure. Let's see. Let's go to our most recent signee, Mr. George Iloka. Of course, we tried to go after him in the offseason last year, and we either didn't want to pay him enough or what, but we just had to wait a year and pay him the minimum. So
It worked out.
yeah, I think that's a
So
win.
now he was a safety for Cincinnati?
Yes, he was.
Basically?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And
has he ever played D-back?
No, he if you
Or
listen
corner,
to
or whatever?
I had heard leading up to the game on Friday, and then PA talked about it quite a bit during the game, especially in the second half, when Zimmer was with Cincinnati the last year or two. He did kind of a 3 safety set, where it'd be like it'd be instead of the 2 linebackers, it'd be 1 linebacker and then a 3rd safety in there instead, just a little bigger safety. I think Arizona does that too a lot. The Cardinals, I remember that. I can't remember the name of the player off the top of my head, but there's a kind of a bigger safety that they moved down there, and he kind of really ripped it up. I think it was last year. Gosh, his name's slipping my mind. But
yeah, Arizona shut out the Cowboys last night in preseason.
Yeah.
I happened to flip it over before I started watching the news last night, and the last statement that Al Michaels made was, well, the game is over, almost over, and Dallas hasn't even have a sniff of the end zone all night. So I don't know what that game was like, but
I think I saw they had like 4 turnovers in the first 15 minutes or something of game time. And
I didn't catch any of that game either.
Yeah, they're getting injured along the offensive line too.
Yeah.
So that's they gotta, well, but it's the Cowboys, so that's good.
That's all right.
Yeah. So just looking at Iloka's stats, I mean, last year was his best year. 80 combined, the 54 solo and 26 assisted. So that's his most career tackles. Pass defense, he had about 5, which is okay. He only had 1 interception. But then, I mean, if he's knocking the ball down and he's not getting beat deep, that's not the end of the world. He's never gotten over 3. He's kind of going every other year, 1-3, 1-3, 1. So 3 interceptions for this year. Write it down.
Well, and it could very well happen. That's the funniest thing about like our
give
defense.
him 3.
That would be beautiful, but the ball, like, it seems like for us lately, either it's the guy initially intercepts it, or the ball gets knocked around and the third Viking that like is in the area intercepts it. You know, it just seems like that's what's been going on. So that could help him too. I mean,
yeah, he's a ball hawk.
Yeah.
He can get there. So that's how we are on free agency. Let's take next step. Let's talk about our extended players and upcoming free agents. Of course, obviously, a few months ago, we're all like, "Wow, how in the hell are we going to get all of these great players signed to contracts without losing any of them, if not only one, hopefully?" And of course, Brzezinski, the cap master that he is about 3/4 or 3/5 of the way through, depending on how you think of the 5th potential free agent. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting them all. So let's talk about Danielle Hunter first. Your guys' thoughts on Danielle Hunter?
What is he, like 23 years old?
22. Something like that. Give me a second. Yep, 23.
Yeah. The kid, he's just a kid, but what a monster, and how fast. With Griffin, and he subs for Griffin, doesn't he, most of the time?
Well, since Griffin's been out in the preseason, he's been playing right. He's been playing right defensive end.
But last year they were both out there, and they were both on the ends. But Griffin, of course, was hurt a little bit. But yeah, Hunter is just a beast. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Randall, just on his motors running all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a yes on that one.
Yeah, young guy too. I think he's got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna be a little bit of a rain on the parade here.
Okay, parade.
Of Danielle Hunter. So far, this has been the talk of agreement so far on most things. So I'm gonna throw in a little bit of something here. I was actually kind of disappointed in his season last year. He started all 16 games, which he didn't before. In 2016, he was more of a pass down. So he'd come out for third down. He'd come on for third down every time, and the occasional second down and longs and stuff like that. And by doing that, he got 12.5 sacks in 2016. Then he starts every game, playing more on first down, and he got 7 sacks. He had 6 sacks his rookie season, and he was hardly used then.
Yeah, his numbers, they fell off a little. Well,
tackling even too. 45 combined tackles. He had 56 combined tackles when he was just a part-time player. So I mean, I think that's kind of what I want to see him take that step. Now that he's got paid, I want to see him still have that hunger.
He had
you want to see your money work for you.
Last year.
7 sacks last year.
I'd like to see that doubled if he get big money like this.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. He's got to be in the teens.
Yeah.
Has to be in the teens.
He has to be the 10 or higher.
Oh,
definitely. So
yeah.
To earn his paycheck.
I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of a lot of hunger on that defensive line and a lot of talent. So maybe, I mean, if they all have 9, then I won't be disappointed.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, you want to have your big hitters up there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought he kind of needed to prove himself as an everyday starter already going into the season, but now that he got money, now he definitely has to now.
You've been paid. Do your job.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and sometimes in NFL, you've seen these guys get real big contracts, and they just don't pan out to be what they are. You know, they play really well on that contract year.
Yeah.
And then they come back and get a big contract, and they kind of go off.
Yeah.
So I hate to say they get lazy, but it's kind of like, well, what happened? And like you said, then you get these people who are coming in where it is a contract year for a new signing, and then they just rip it up. It's like, come on, we want that.
Of course, he was a rookie last year, right?
That was 2 years ago.
2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
This is
his
third
fourth
year.
This is his fourth year.
His fourth year.
Yeah, so it's 3 years ago. I'm sorry. I said 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, it was 3. Yep.
Yeah, no, this is his fourth year.
Well, yeah, now it's time for him to shine then.
Yeah.
You
He's
can't
got the
say
money.
It's a sophomore year.
He's got the
Junior.
money. Yeah, he's got the money now, so he needs to step
That I
it up.
agree
a notch.
with.
Now let's go on to our middle linebacker, Mr. Eric Kendricks. To be honest, I thought if there was anybody who was going to be left behind out of the group of 5, I thought it was going to be Kendricks, and he ended up being the first one signed.
Yeah.
So that kind of surprised me.
Well, he's kind of been a hit and a miss on certain games. He'll have a good game, and then he'll have an off game. Against Seattle, he covered those two, were they tight ends or whatever? He
down
was
the field.
Yeah, he was down the field. I mean, and he looked fast.
Oh yeah.
So maybe I don't know if he shed some weight that he's moving faster now, but he sure has got some moves on him. But
yeah, of course he led the team the last couple of years. He had 113 combined tackles last year.
Yeah.
1 sack, 1 interception, a touchdown on that interception.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, both his interceptions have been touchdowns. The 1 year before that was also a touchdown. So I do love in we don't need the third linebacker at all either in the division we are, because we play nickel way more than often. And especially if with Iloka coming on, if they're going to start doing that 3 safety thing, then that's probably Kendricks that'll be benched, and Barr would probably be the starter, because I think Barr's a little bit more athletic and a little faster.
Probably.
Yeah.
And maybe that with Hendrick, that to give him that little bit of a breather, so he does get back into some of them higher numbers. Who knows?
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
Yep. No. So Kendricks, they got him done. That's fine with me. I'm happy to have him. Now, of course, let's get to Diggs, which was the newer signing of the group. I would just like to see Diggs be healthy for a year.
Yep.
Because he 13, 13, and 14 games.
Yeah, there always seems to be some just little hitch he gets there, and
yeah. And he had 84 receptions 2 years ago, only 64 last year. I'm interested to see. I think Cousins is actually going to distribute the ball a lot more.
I think that's going to be the case a lot more the way it looks too so far. I mean, he looks around a lot more, whereas. Not that Keenum didn't give the proper looks, but I mean, it was kind of Thielen was his unwritten.
Thielen
that's
and
my
Diggs,
go-to.
both of
It's
them.
like, yep.
Well, that's where Cousins is going to be dangerous. If they can protect him, and so he can look at that 1, 2, and 3 receivers, these guys are going to just eat people up because Thielen and Diggs. I'm looking for a big year for Rudolph. If they don't use him, I'll be disappointed.
It sounds kind of bad, but I'm kind of sick of waiting for that big year for Rudolph. He
I
had a
know.
lot of touchdowns last year. I had him in fantasy football. I didn't start him most of the year because he just was so inconsistent. I want to see
2
him
points or 14.
I want to see him jump into that. He doesn't have to get to Gronk
Right.
No.
status, but the Khalees, Kelsey.
Kelsey. Yeah.
I was calling Khalees.
I know you always.
I don't know why do I call? Why do I say Khalees every single
I've always
time?
had to correct it too. You mean Kelsey?
And I look at you and I'm just like, oh damn, it's Kelsey. And whatever happens with Jimmy Graham too, over in Green Bay, I think
That'll be
he's
interesting to see
gonna
what
have a
that's gonna be this year.
resurgence.
I think
he's
he
gonna
is
have.
too.
So yeah, I just would like to hear him up there with the top ones.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is going to make the difference. But so obviously we're all happy about Diggs too. I mean, he's a great guy, great motor, hard work ethic, 5th round pick.
Yep. And he was arguably the biggest player and one of the biggest plays in our history. I mean, with the Minnesota Miracle last year.
Yep.
Insane.
Yep. It's gonna be. I'm happy. I'm happy that they took digs. 'Cause
I think I've watched that catch more than I watched the Ahmad Rashad catch in against Cleveland in 1970, whatever it was. And I was there. I was in that end zone.
yeah, for all the old timers listening, I'm sure they know exactly what play you are talking about. I ain't gonna lie, I have no idea. I'm sure I've seen it,
You have.
but I just can't picture it off the top of my head right now. So yeah, so that's the 3 members that have been signed out of the 4 or 5. Like I said, then we've got Anthony Barr and Waynes. Barr. I think they're in the middle of getting it ready, getting it done. I wouldn't be surprised if by the beginning of the season, they announced that Barr has been signed, long term. And I think because he is kind of the dime linebacker, he's out there usually for that in covering. I guess him and Kentrich take turns, but they're just he's just too athletic. He's too athletic to let go.
Yeah, he's very athletic. Plus, he's had some injuries. Hopefully, that's past him. Maybe that's what they look at. Maybe he won't get as much of a bigger contract because of his injuries. Who knows? But I would like to see him sign him because I bought his jersey last year. So
make that investment worth it.
Yes.
And as far as Waynes goes, I think with his, we've got such depth in our backfield. Earlier we were talking about Alexander and what is he going to do. I think that's gonna determine is whether or not we sign Waynes. Is if Mac Alexander steps into his own.
Yeah, there again, it's Alexander kind of scares me. He seems to be on top of things, and then all of a sudden he just gets really burned, and over that. So we'll go with that. I'm waiting for the re-signing of Waynes, I think.
Yeah, I'd say out of the 5, he's probably the one we can most let go of out of it, and probably be safe just because of our recent draft and who we took. So it's I do like how Waynes has improved every year. He seems to want to get better. He was kind of all over the place his rookie year, getting burnt quite easily. He didn't even belong on the field most of the time his rookie year, but he's taken such big jumps every year. I'd definitely be fine with him staying.
Yes.
Maybe they can move him into the slot. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see what Brzezinski does here with those 2 signings. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Barr is signed by the time the season starts or a week or 2 in maybe. But we'll see what happens. As far as that, let's go. Preseason games, they've been kind of a mixed bag, I feel.
To say the least.
I feel like the first one, that first drive was brilliant.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Against Denver. Then Jacksonville, we looked rough.
That seemed
but the offensive line.
They were all out of sorts that game. I have no idea what they'd been drinking. I don't know. But
well, and Jacksonville was no
Kool-Aid.
slouch either. Their defense either. They're a pretty solid team.
Yeah, no, that's true. They definitely are not. We should have struggled against their defense a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people I was reading online were all scared about that, but when our starters left the game, it was 7-3.
Yep.
We were losing 7-3.
Right.
Very manageable.
If we can't make up a 7-3 deficit in 2.5 quarters, then we might as well drop our expectations down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I feel like it was, and of course we had almost all of our offensive linemen. Well, Riley was the only starter from the original, and Compton is supposed to.
Yeah, and a lot of weird, uncharacteristic stuff from us too. With a couple of fumbles, a couple of weird just passes went the wrong way, and just there was just something about that game.
Latavius put on the ground twice.
Yeah. That's unlike
that's on him.
No, so it's kind of that's.
Sometimes you just have a bad game,
and that's very true too.
You know what I mean? You just hope it doesn't come in the NFC Championship game. Sorry to bring that up. So that's like I said, the preseason is what it
scored
is.
7 points.
Yeah, there you go. In the first drive.
Yes.
So let's get into some predicting. I'm gonna wait on the record first. Let's go bold predictions. What is your bold prediction, Father. You go first.
Okay, let's go with the NFC. Let's go with that. Let's go with the East first. Coming out of the East, I'm thinking Philly again. I don't think anybody else there is going to even contest them. So,
You talking about playoffs?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm going Philly. Philly's going to be number one, and Philly's going to be I think will be the number one seed again. I'd like to see the Vikes do that, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Go to the North
Tough
Division.
schedule.
Yep, tough schedule. Yep. I see Vikes and Packers. I'd love to see them take the Packers twice, but they're tough at home. But I still think the Vikes are going to squeeze them out a little bit. But then I go with New Orleans in the South. And then I also go with L.A. in the West. And my two bold predictions for, of course, wild cards are Packers and surprising San Fran. I'm going to go with them. I think Seattle's defense is maybe a little weaker than it has been in the past, so that's why I'm going to San Fran. We go to the AFC, I go with New England, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and KC, just in that order. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I got Buffalo coming in at 6th seed, and here's my surprising team of the year. I'm thinking with Mr. Gruden coaching again, I think I'll go Oakland.
Oh yeah, I think they should. I think they definitely
Oakland's gonna
rebound.
have a really good shot.
They're
too.
going to have maybe going to have a little tussle with the Chargers because the Chargers looked pretty good last year, but I don't know. LA used to be San Diego, and San Diego always seemed to shoot themselves in the foot. Sorry, my brother Frank, but that's you live there in San
I think
Diego.
if Oakland can stay healthy for once, finally, too, the whole way through the season, they've got it all there. They just got to stay healthy.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's my my bold.
You, sir, go ahead, Jeremy.
Your dad, literally, I could just steal his sheets. That's pretty much exactly what I literally thought. I actually had been contemplating San Fran this season too. Garoppolo coming out there. I mean, they could really do something.
Well, they went 5-0 on the way, the last 5 games, and they played some couple good teams. I can't exactly remember who they were, but they played some good teams to go 5-0. So, maybe he's their savior.
And I think a lot of these the keys to these teams are, as it is any year, it's going to be injuries.
Mm-hmm.
If they can stay healthy, every one of those teams should be there.
Yep.
They should be.
Yep.
Yeah. So when I tried to look at the playoff predictions, I went into the thought of the the NFL has the biggest turnover in playoff teams every year.
Yep.
Usually 50% only make it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel that in the NFC teams, the top NFC teams, did not go back to the pack at all. They separated themselves even further with the offseason with what the Rams did, what the Saints, their age being younger and their defense picking up, and then what we added too. I'll start off with the AFC. I mean, obviously the Patriots. I mean, they're the Patriots.
Will they ever retire?
Yeah, I know, right? Please. Steelers, they just consistent. Steelers, I think, are going to win. I am going to go, actually, in the AFC South. I'm going to have the Texans winning the division.
Interesting.
I mean, once again, you talked about injuries.
And that's just it.
Pre-injury last year with Watson and J.J. Watt, they were
killing it.
They were just killing people, and they dropped. So I've got the Texans, Steelers, Patriots. I've got the Chiefs coming out barely. That's going to be a tough one. But then I think the wild cards will be the Jags and the Raiders. I think the Jags will sneak in because I think their defense is just too good not to still be like 10-6 or 9-7.
Make up for even what their offense lacks. Yeah.
Yep. And but then on the NFC side, Vikings, Saints, Rams, Eagles, I guess.
Unless they have an injury.
Don't want to. Yeah, exactly. Packers will
That
be
didn't do much for them last year.
Packers will be a wild card, and for my other wild card, it was a tough choice. For maybe the 6th seed, a squeak in. For some reason, I just have a feeling like the Giants are going to have a good season.
They could.
I mean,
they
what
got
they've added.
Yeah, the new running back. And it sounded like their
Odell's
offensive line is a little
healthy.
better.
Yep.
That'll be the big question there too. Will be Odell Beckham Jr. Now he got his big contract. I believe that was today.
Yep. When we
So
record this.
now did he get the money? Now it's either put up or shut up. You want to be the highest paid over Antonio Brown. Now you better show us what you're gonna do.
Yep.
And they got that quarterback. You have won 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah, against the Patriots.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, he's getting along in the tooth. I have a feeling.
He
he probably doesn't have a ton left.
Yeah.
Just like his brother.
But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners squeak in or the Falcons. Those were kind of my other ones. Niners probably the least. I don't know. You guys both talked up the Niners. I'm gonna claim fool's gold until I see it. Now watch, they're gonna come in and just pound us week 1 or some crap, just to shut me up and put egg on my face. But that's how I take a look at it. So that's who I think are the 12 playoff teams will be. Now, what about the Vikings record? What do you guys have the Vikings record at the end of the season?
Well, I go back and forth between 12-4 and 11-5.
That's exactly
12-4. 12-4. They'll be either. I try to look at the Philly schedule, and I think they may have a little easier schedule than we do. I'm not exactly sure who's all in there again. I can't remember. I just looked at it too. But 12-4, 11-5, still number 2 seed. I think they still take the division over the Packers because I just think we have a better receiving core. Aaron Rodgers has Graham back. He may be wonderful, but I think his other people he throws to aren't. So, so that's my look at. I'll stay with. I'll go 11-5.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I went through that schedule a couple times today, and as much as obviously I'd love to see us beat Green Bay twice in the season, the likelihood usually is we draw with them. I mean, I do like the fact that we are playing at Lambeau early, so it's not going to be deathly cold out there.
That's a big difference.
That'll help,
Yep.
but some of those road the Rams on the road that makes me a little nervous. Patriots on the road makes me nervous.
Yeah, just a brutal road schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
Seattle
on the road. I mean, that stadium is just supposed. I mean, well, the 12th man. That's got a name for a reason, And I know that Rob here at work, we've talked with him too, and he's just like, I can totally see them repeating a 13-3 season. And when people say that, it kind of takes me back because it's like you do realize like a 13-3 season is not something every team just does every year. Like that's a pretty special season.
Yeah.
Because the littlest things can go wrong. I mean, look what happened to the Saints in the NFC or the game against us in the playoffs there.
Yep.
I mean, they thought they were winning that game, and in the last minute, boom, that stuff just happens. You know. So I mean, but I still think we'll have a very respectable record. I'm putting us in about 12-4.
And that's what I have. I have 12-4. I feel like there's 11 easily winnable games, and then the other 5 are going to be toss-up. Mm-hmm. The 5 games are the at Packers, at Rams, at Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles, that's what the other one is.
At Patriots, and Saints here at home. I feel those are the 5, the 5 tougher matchups out of there. So the other 11, we should win.
Yeah.
We should win as the better team.
Now my 5 losses are 3. All 5 of them are on the road.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be 8-0.
Yeah,
I think we'll be able to beat New Orleans again.
So I have on my notes. I put our bottom. I feel is 11-5. Our top 14-2.
It could happen. Never know.
Oh, I'm swimming in the Kool-Aid on that one.
Yeah. Right. Well, defense. We had them all years ago.
And see, that makes it, yeah.
Yeah. We had great. For you old people out there that remember these purple people eaters, we had a great defense. But we went to 4 Super Bowls, and the defense held everybody, except for Oakland. They gave up 30-some points to Oakland, but the other games are 16 points, 23, what was the other one? But our offense scored 6, 7, and never scored until like the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. The offense definitely hurt us on that one. Okay, well, that's good. We're all kind of on the same, and I think we all kind of, you talk to anybody,
we're
that's
all drinking
kind of
the same Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one just quick one. We're just going to do kind of a quick liner, maybe a little explanation. Bold prediction for the Vikings. I'll start off with mine. I think by the end of the season, Delvin Cook will be considered a top 3 running back in the NFL. Maybe top 2. I think if he is healthy all season, he will be put up in the conversation with Bell and Gurley. That's my bold prediction.
I think a big part of that will be too. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think that guy is seriously, he's a beast. Depends on what happens, how much they decide to go committee back there, I think. But Murray didn't give a lot of confidence with this last game when, like Rolf was saying, he coughed up the ball twice. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I could see that one happening. My bolder one for this year, I think you're going to see a real coming out party for Diggs. Which kind of pains me to say because, of course, I just drafted Thielen in my fantasy draft. But so far the chemistry those two have had this preseason. I mean, I could, like I said, that pass against Denver, I can watch it over and over. I'm like, I don't know how he caught it. I don't know.
You're talking 100+ receptions?
I think there's a possibility of it.
Well, I can see it.
Well, if we can protect Cousins, I'm going to boldly go where no man has gone before and predict that Thielen and Diggs are 1 and 2 in the league.
That would be
Receptions.
Beautiful.
Receptions. If Cousins is protected, he's got an accurate arm, he's got a strong arm, and those guys seem to be able to get open. And hopefully they used Rudolph as far as a tight end enough that they leave them alone out there sometimes and go for it.
Well,
that's my bold prediction.
Well, we'll get together after the season and see how horribly off we are. Or people can comment and mention how
I'll bring my towel.
So yeah, we've got so that's with the bold predictions, and now it's time for Mount Rushmore. This will be our common thread throughout the season. We're getting kind of late on time-wise here for the podcast. I don't want to go too long. So, Jeremy, I'll get you the next time you are on.
Yep, no problem.
But, Father, you go ahead. Give me your 4 Mount Rushmore players and why you picked them.
Oh, well, I'm sitting here with Chris Carter's jersey on, and I have his cap, too. So I think I got to pick Chris.
Well, that was a no-brainer.
That was no brainer
for you.
me.
I knew it would be.
I mean, the day he hit set foot in the Metrodome and took purple on, he was my man. And I told Beau that I had 4 different sets of Mount Rushmore here, and I kept going back and forth because I can go back a ways, of course. But my number 2 is the crazy man, Randall. I will stick with him. Even though we could put him out, John Randall, we could put him out on Crazy Horse like you made the statement the other day, too. That's why I could give me another one here. But anyway, and I really couldn't bring AP in, even though he has all these stats. But then I watched the Dallas Cowboy game at Thanksgiving and saw Randy Moss burn him. And I have to go with Randy, even though he wasn't with us as many years as I thought he should have been. His attitude kind of sucked, but he was a freak.
Yeah.
And now here's a surprise. I'm going with a defensive player, Joey Browner.
Joey Browner.
Oh, come on. We didn't talk about that.
No.
I know.
No, I hear you.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm just surprised.
Number 47. You know, he's the only other D-back that's been drafted number 1 besides your man Harrison Smith.
No, in the first round.
Yep, first round. He's still like number 5 in tackles, in games played. He's number 1. I can't bring it up now on my phone here, but he's number 1 in another category. But if he was playing now, he would probably have about 4 or 5 penalties in the first series.
Because of the helmet.
Yeah.
Oh man, this guy used to tear people's bodies. And that's why Harrison Smith kind of reminds me of Joey Browner, except in a kinder way because of the new rules. So that's my 4.
Okay, so you got Carter, Moss, Randall, and Browner.
Yeah.
Nobody before the 1980s. That kind of surprised me. I ain't gonna lie. Maybe it's just your memory. You just can't remember.
Well,
before
you want to hear my other ones?
1980.
You want to hear my other ones? I got Tark, I got Marshall, I got Page, I got Blair, Studwell.
Yeah, like and that's the thing is that's what makes this conversation so fun, because you can go around and talk to a variety of people, and they're all going to have different. You're not going to find very many with the exact same 4.
You haven't yet, and you've done how many 6 or 7 of them?
Yeah. So it's Randall's been the most consistent one.
Yeah, he's been the most consistent.
Left off of mine, but he was consistent with yours, because of course mine was Tarkington, Page, Carter, and Moss. And John Randall, like I said. And if you haven't heard the previous podcast, please go back and listen to that, the Mount Rushmore podcast with the announcers. But yeah, so that's what screensaver just went on in the middle of us talking here. It just turned black. I'm like, what the heck? It's like, oh great, there goes the program. So yeah, well, I think that's a good list, Dad. Joy Browner was definitely a surprise. As usual, anybody listening, if you have your Mount Rushmore, you can email me at K953sportsshow at gmail.com. That's K953sportsshow at gmail.com. Give me your 4, and I will, towards the end of the season, I will pick a random person who put in their Mount Rushmore, and I can have them here in studio or over the phone if you're not in the area, to give me your Mount Rushmores on the podcast. So excited for the season to start. Next week, we're going to be having Stephen Ray, the afternoon guy from K95, in with us. And then Tim Jackson is going to be in. He is a 49ers fan and a good friend of mine. So we are going to sit down and we are going to talk about the Niners-Vikings matchup for week 1. And he's going to hopefully give us a little more insight on the Niners that you guys think are going to make the playoffs and who I think are not. Because they're overhyped.
All right.
We'll just see how it goes.
They might be.
We could all be completely wrong.
I know. Exactly.
Oh, we were real close on that one.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. That's what's fun about these types of predictions is you can go back at the end of the year and be like, oh, well, that sucked.
The 49ers.
I was way off.
The 49ers were overhyped a long time, but oh boy, when Montana was there. But Bill Walsh did not invent the West Coast offense. Jerry Burns did. He just never got credit for it. Well, that's my 2 cents for the game.
I don't know. You might have heard it on the podcast, the last one. Steve and I had mentioned that. Yeah, he did not get the credit where the credit was due. But well, awesome. Hey guys, thanks for joining me today in the podcast. I know we'll see you guys throughout the season, Jeremy and Father. Yep. And I don't know if I should call you Father, Dad, or Rolf. But
Dad.
So. Yeah, so appreciate it, guys.
My son. I am your father.
We'll take a look at these, and maybe at the end of the season, us 3 will sit down again and we'll compare where we're sitting at the end of the year and how it sounded. So
give me a shot at the Packer game.
Yeah, there you go. So thanks, guys, and thank you for listening, everybody. Once again, please hit subscribe at the bottom, and so you can get all weekly podcasts to your phone, and you can know when they're up every Wednesday. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.